Happy April, everyone. It's Michelle from Tape and Twine here for the April episode of Tea with Me. If you are new to my channel, welcome, welcome. I'm so incredibly happy you're here. Thank you to my new subscribers, and a big thank you to my longtime supporters and subscribers and fans and friends and family. I am just so thrilled to continue to do this every month for you, and I'm so incredibly glad you're here. For those of you who are new, Tea with Me is a chat video all about papercraft, vintage, things going on in my paper world, where I try to recommend products, give you crafty ideas, and just share. And today's episode kind of has a theme, and the theme is fussy cutting. Now, if you don't know what fussy cutting is taking images from magazines, books, papers, and cutting them out with fine scissors and making projects out of them. So if you are a fan, this episode is for you. If you're not a fan of fussy cutting, this episode is for you, because I have a solution where you may never have to fussy cut again. So anyway, let's have some tea and get going. So today I am having black chai. It is getting towards the end of the season where I have hot tea. I'll start having cold tea soon, or make brewing tea in the morning, and then in the afternoon having it over ice. So first, before I begin, I just want to say I am hovering, like really hovering around a big milestone on my YouTube channel. I am just about at just under 6,000. And if I can get there, I will do a giveaway. So make sure to tune in to the next Tea with Me in May. Hopefully I will be there, fingers crossed. And if so, I'm sure I'll be talking about some sort of a giveaway coming up on that. I'm starting to think about it now because I'm thinking positive. We can do it. We can get there. So let's talk about fussy cutting. What is fussy cutting? Well, fussy cutting is essentially taking images and cutting them out with special scissors. And we do that for collage, for making tags, for making envelopes. And I first wanted to introduce the fussy cut scissors that I use. I will have links below where you can get these. I have an Amazon storefront, like most YouTubers do, especially craft and artist people. We have these storefronts so that we can show you links to the exact products we're talking about. If you go to those links, you can look at the products and either go to your craft store and purchase them, or try to source them somewhere else. Or if you purchase through the links, the associate gets a teeny tiny commission. And when I say teeny tiny, I mean I made 33 cents last month. So believe me, these links are not here so that I'm rolling in the dough. It's more for informational purposes. I can't talk today. It's more for informational purposes so that you can find those products if they sound good to you. So many junk journal, papercraft, collage people have these pretty little scissors. And some people buy them just for photography, for Instagram, as a photo like prop. And they are very pretty for photo props, but I use mine all the time, and they're weighted really nice, and you can get in. I should probably grab something I could fussy cut in front of you. Hold on, let me grab something. So here's this cute little piece of paper, and I'm going to just kind of demonstrate a little bit here. So these fine tip scissors, and most of you already know, I'm not going to give you a lesson in fussy cutting. Moving the paper rather than moving the scissors is the best way to do it. But what I find with these metal ones is they have such tiny little tips, and they're very, very good for getting in close to objects. And if you have to, like, let's say this monkey, let's say you have to get in there, because these have such fine tips, you can just go in there and do a little pinch, and then they have such great little tips to get really close, right? So this is what I find these are good for. Thing is, they're small and hard, and you couldn't, you know, cutting out one thing is easy, but if, let's say, you were going doing a couple hours of fussy cutting, these might not be the most comfortable. So moving on, I have these, and the way that they're curved, they rock really well. So in other words, I find these are my favorite go-tos if I'm just quickly cutting out something. The curve angle on these little comfortable scissors really allow me to cut for a long period of time. And you see I'm barely moving the scissors. I'm moving the paper more than anything. These are stainless steel. They're Singer. I guess they're sewing scissors, but I just find the curve of them really works well, and they're very comfortable in my hand. But if you're looking for a big, let's say these types of things are really uncomfortable in your hands, or you're going to be doing a big fussy cutting session, these are the way to go. These are titanium Westcut scissors, but look how big and comfortable this is for fussy cutting, and it still has the small scissor length, pretty much the same as the Singer. They're just not curved as much more of a straight blade. But look how, like, if I'm going to do a bunch of cutting first, just like isolating things, and then I just want to come in and do a rough cutout, these are so comfortable. You can cut for a long time with these, because if you see how they are in my hand, there's just so much room for my hand, and I'm obviously cutting really fast, but really there's a big difference between putting your these are comfortable too, but this, look at, you're using your whole hand versus the two fingers. So you know your capabilities and what's comfortable for you. These do work, but they're not, you're not going to get the same comfort from these at all, but they're really pretty in pictures. So those are the scissors that I basically use for fussy cutting. And my recommendation is any of these are great. And honestly, I use all of them. I can't say that I use one more than others, because I use them for different things, and I do use them all equally, and they're not expensive. These two here, this is probably the most expensive. I'll put the prices below, and they do change, so I don't want to like quote a price, but I'm going to say you can probably get the pair of these for around $10 to $12. Probably same with this, and I know these you can get between $5 and $8, I think. So they're not a big investment, and you'll use them a lot. So let me clear this up, and let me give you a recommendation for a really great book to fussy cut. If you've tuned into my Tea With Me episodes, you know that I almost always recommend 2 to 3 books every single episode, and those books are usually either for inspiration or to cut up and use in projects. This would be the cut up and use in projects. I'm going to zoom out just a hair, and I will say that these books, I usually make sure there's something that's fairly readily available that you can order at a used book site like Thrift Books or World of Books or Amazon used books, and usually are not that much money. When I looked this up online to see how much it was going at used bookstores, it was selling for between $4.50 and about $13 or $14. So that's a pretty good range, but I generally think you can get this book around $5 at a used bookstore. It's definitely, I look at books when I'm looking at books as material, like I would a paper pack. How much use am I going to get out of them? How much paper am I going to get out of it? How much material am I going to get out of it? This is a very big book, and I think it is definitely worth the investment. Let me show you what's inside. The reason I'm showing you this book is there are so many books out there which have beautiful botanicals to cut out, birds, animals, things like that. But the thing that I have struggled to find over the years, and something that is so good in collage and as background, is houseplants, greenery, foliage, not things that are typically full of flowers. And that's what I really liked about this book. This book was first published in 1981. It's the Reader's Digest Success with Houseplants. And it's a very big size, so the pages are a really nice size if you were going to use some of these pages as junk journal pages, because you could rip these out, fold them in half, and they'd be about the right size. And there are photographs in there, as you can see here. Plenty of photographs. But what I really liked about this book is the way that it's written. It's written with these columns, and there's a ton of illustrations in here. Big illustrations and small illustrations, which give you such a variety to fussy cut out. Now, if I flip through quickly, first of all, let me say this is the 1982. It came out in 1981. This was the third printing. So there is no shininess to this. This is like a nice creamy flat paper, which I really like for fussy cutting, because I don't like the items to be glossy when I'm putting it down on a page. I don't like it to be white, and it's not. It's kind of creamy. And there are just tons and tons of foliage type of pictures in here. Different sizes, different colors, different textures. And with the columns being this size, this is perfect for a tag. If you wanted to then, okay, now I'm taking out some of the pictures, I'm going to have a lot of text left over. These are got a really nice, with the columns, it's got a really nice dimension for the tags. And there are, like I said, there are some photographs in here. I'm not a big photograph person. Look at this. I love this little picture here with the bottles for container gardens. But there are some photographs, especially at the beginning, and very dated, I might add too. But this book is just chock full of plants to fussy cut. And little things like this are really great too, because you can punch those out with like a circle punch and have all these great little tiny miniature plants for like, little circle punches for things. So I'm just going to flip through really quick. Christmas cactus. There's some with flowers. Most of them, I have to say, I love this cactuses. Look at this round cactus. How great would that be? Just a terrific, terrific book full. I love that. Like succulent for layering, for collaging, for tags. Just a terrific book for that. I recently got this at an estate sale, and I was asked, oh, you really like plants? And I'm like, yes, but I am not using this to make my plants grow. I am cutting this book up. They were horrified. A lot of times people are horrified when you say you're going to cut up a book. But this book is nothing special. It's not antique. It's not valuable. It is just valuable in the sense of look at all the material that you would get for probably less than $10. So that's my recommendation, Success with Houseplants from Reader's Digest. Now let's move on to a huge recommendation. Okay, so not everybody loves fussy cutting. I know, it's shocking, right? I personally like it because I find it very relaxing. It's something I can do with the TV on, but not everybody does. So I'm going to edit in some video now of something I received last week that will make your life fussy cutting so much easier. So I received a package last week from Terry Fitzpatrick. She has a Etsy shop, which I will talk about in a second. And she sent me these 2 folders full of her newest product. Terry owns a shop called Lucid Lizard Jewelry. She is a jewelry maker, first and foremost, but she's also a major paper crafter and artist in so many different ways. She paints and does all sorts of things. But this is her newest product, and I think it's brilliant. She has curated fussy cut kits that you can order that are sorted by color and by type Now, what she sent me are just samples. She sent me, actually, in all honesty, she's a friend of mine, and she sent me this as a gift, and it was a complete surprise. I knew she had just put this in her shop, and I was so excited to see these things in person. Fussy cuts are wonderful. I love fussy cutting, but these are so great because they're on a heavier cardstock. Her kit, she has 38 kits. And of the 38, she has just dozens of kits that are butterflies and birds and flowers and mushrooms and animals. And she does minis and she sorts them by color. There's so many different kits she has, and they're so reasonably priced. They're from $5 to, I think the top price is $10. And what I really love is, do you see how this image is layered with ferns and mushrooms in the front and the back? That was not the image that she took off the internet. She curates public domain images, and then on some of the kits, she actually layers them. She takes an isolated mushroom and puts it in front of the ferns and makes almost like digital clusters that then are fussy cut out. That's a whole new level of pre-cut ephemera, in my opinion. And what I really love is because she's curating these kits herself, she's finding the images and she's putting them together by color and type. They all go together seamlessly. And she has fabulous collections that can be so helpful in collage. What I'm showing you now is mostly from her woodland collections, which have animals and ferns and mushrooms, and they're just ready. They're just immediately ready for your collage work. And that is the fun part, right? You can have a tray full of these things and you're making envelopes for Happy Mail, you're making collages, and you're just sorting through and picking out your favorite images. I'm just so impressed with the work that she's put in to gather all these images, then put them together in collections, then print them out of different sizes. She precisely cuts them herself, and she's the quality control. She's doing every step of the process. So, go to her shop. If you don't like to fussy cut or you have problems because you have issues with arthritis or some limitations, Terry's got you covered. She has all different types of sets of animals, flowers, butterflies. She has minis. She has full size. She has spring bulbs. She has everything. Just go check her out. Right now, her shop is set to ship only to the United States, but if you're out of the country and you're interested in the set, private message her through Etsy. She said that if you're willing to pay the shipping, it's a conversation she'll have for sure. So thank you, Terry. Thank you for this beautiful gift. I will use them. They're wonderful. And for everybody who doesn't like to fussy cut, you can throw your scissors away. Okay, just kidding. Okay, so we have talked about scissors. We had a book recommendation, and I've talked about Terry's shop. The last thing I would really like to play with today with this whole fussy cutting theme is a project that was inspired by me watching a video from my friend Barbie. She did a video on about her garden journal, which I will post below, and she was just flipping through and talking about her gardening journal, and she got to a place in the journal where she had a bunch of floral fussy cuts, and she said a sentence that had something to do with, I'll just arrange them in here like a bouquet. And something about that sentence just clicked something off in my brain, and I thought, that would be a wonderful Happy Mail type project. What if you wanted to send a bunch of botanical fussy cuts to a friend and you arrange them like a flower bouquet? And what resulted is this project. And I literally just put this together this afternoon. I'm going to start the video now so that you can see how I got to here. And it won't look like much, believe me, it won't. But this is not permanent. This is like fussy cuts that you will mail to a friend when you mail a letter. So let's get into that now. I hope you really like this idea. And thanks, Barbie, for saying that. That was just a terrific little moment for me. So here's how I began this little project. I kind of had an idea of what I wanted to do, but in all honesty, it was just a kernel of an idea, inspired by Barbie at Nellie and Ruth Designs. Like I said, just listening to her doing a flip through, and she mentioned, putting together her fussy cuts inside this book like a bouquet. And I thought, aha, I want to do something with that bouquet idea. So I went through my ephemera folder, and a lot of times when I fussy cut my botanicals or my flowers, as you can see, I just sort of do a rough fussy cut. I kind of give them quite a bit of room around the edge with a white border because I don't know how I'm going to use them. So I went through and picked out flowers, and I'm now very closely fussy cutting them because I want them to look like flowers in a bouquet. I don't want that white to stand out. I want to kind of hug the flowers so they really do look like real flowers, or as real as fussy cuts are going to look. And just like when you make a real bouquet, the fun is picking out colors that you think go together, textures, height, shape, as if you were arranging your own bouquet in real life. You're doing the same thing except with paper. So I picked out a bunch of flowers that I thought would go together really nicely in a bouquet for this project. And I made sure there were different sizes, different shapes, and different heights. So I'm not cutting all of them on camera, and you can thank me for that because how boring is that? But here they are, they're all done. And now I'm just going to sort of start arranging them to see if they kind of do go as a bouquet, as I would in a vase of flowers. Because what I want to do is kind of get a sense of how big the vase would need to be, or the container, and, how many little folds I'm going to need to hold them in place. And I know that does not make sense, but it will make sense. I promise. So I'm just sort of like moving them around and trying to see what fits. And I think those two are just too bright. I want more of like a spring bouquet. And I like this. This is the right amount of flowers. I like the colors together. And that's kind of my bouquet that I'm going to jump off from. So now I'm going to slide them off and kind of keep them a little bit together so I can remember how I want them. And I'm going to need a long piece of paper. So I have this ledger book, and don't get excited. It looks like an old ledger, but it is old. It's vintage, but it's not like the ledgers we collect. As you can see, it's sort of like the cover is just sort of a picture of the old ledgers, but I'm not complaining. So this is a large piece of ledger, and I'm just going to start folding it so that I can make sort of like these little pockets or steps to put the flowers in. Think of it as your own paper frog. And when I say frog is a term back in the day, these little metal pieces that you put flowers in to arrange them. And that's kind of what this piece of paper is. It's sort of like 4 folds that we're going to act as a paper frog. I'm going to be able to arrange the flowers because of it. And I'm going to rough draw a vase. I mean, really rough. You can see how rough it is. It doesn't even look like a vase, really, but I just want to get the shape of what I need, and I'm going to throw this in my sewing machine. Now, if you don't have a sewing machine, you could simply just glue the edges or use washi tape, but I'm going to sew it. So now it's sewed around the edges. I just used a straight stitch, and I sewed in front of where I drew so I can cut what I drew off. And you don't even have to draw. You could just do it, freestyle on your sewing machines, or do it with, a pencil so you could erase it. This is just the jumping off point. And, when I have an idea, I often know that the first time through is just to sort of flesh out the idea. So now I'm going to get my ink pad, and I'm going to ink around the edge so the vase is a little bit more defined. And it's a little bit of a plain ledger. It would have been great if there was some writing on it, but there isn't. But I don't want to go too busy because the flowers really are the star here. So I'm going to grab sort of this fern or moss green ink pad and this basic texture stamp and just put a little bit of, a little bit of interest on the ledger paper. But again, I don't want it to be too busy. And I'm thinking I'm going to put it on a tag. And I know it needs to have some structure to support the flowers, but I'm realizing this is really far too small. I put this in and I think it looks so cute already, but I can tell there needs to be something in the back of these flowers to keep them straight, to keep them organized, and to support them. So as I'm arranging them in this little vase to make sure that it all fits well, I'm also thinking, what can I use in the back of this to support it and look nice? And I remember I have a embossed like envelope folder from like a wedding, like a wedding invitation. They put the invitation within like an embossed folder. And all it really is a piece of cardstock that's embossed and then kind of glued on two sides to make an envelope. And I'm going to grab that right now, and you're going to see that it's going to fit much better than this measly little tag. And that's when I grab it now. Here it is. And do you see? There we go. It's embossed, which makes it interesting. And you can see the construction. This is super easy. Like you could make one of these just by embossing a piece of cardstock and then folding it over and gluing it. I'm just lucky I happen to have this already created. So that is gonna work for me. So now I'm gonna take this piece of old book page and I'm just gonna sort of make a place for the vase to land, so it's just not sitting out there in the middle of this embossed folder. And I'm going to ink it and glue it on. But I'm going to glue the vase on first, and I'm going to make a mistake here because I'm going to realize by putting glue all around the back, I'm missing an opportunity to have one more place to stick a flower, which is right down in the top of that vase. And I realize it after I've glued it, and I'm like, you know what? If I wipe it down and just let it dry without, keep the flap up, I can do it again. So that's what I'm doing. So while that glue is drying, I'm going to put the little piece of book page on the bottom. Like I said, just to sort of have a little place for it to land so it looks like it's resting on a table or on a surface. I'm going to ink the edge to give it a little bit more definition. And I'm not making anything super busy because, again, everything has to be subtle because we want the flowers to be the main attraction here. We don't want anything competing with the flowers. So while I'm letting this vase dry on the back, I'm pulling out some of my favorite new little labels. They're not new. They're from Tracy Fox, and I will put the link below. They're from her label collection. She has like botanicals that go in the label. And just one of my favorite little kits to use when I need just a little hint of something special. And I think this will really give a little extra something to the vase without being too busy. I think it'll blend nice. So I'm just trying a few on, trying to figure out how I can embellish this folder without making it too busy, as I said. So I've picked out a label, one of Tracy's labels, and now I have a piece of the ledger paper left over. And I think I'm going to rough rip that, and kind of glue that a little bit inside the folder just to sort of play off the ledger on the vase, to kind of balance out the design a little bit, the layout a little bit, just so your eye is going in the right direction when this piece is put completely together. I like that there's one of the ledger page numbers on it. That's always like a neat little visual. And I'm just going to ink the edge and trim it out. And, again, we're just building a little bit of interest, building a little bit more dimension to this piece, but yet keeping in mind that the Fussy cut flowers is not only the star of the show, but also, if this is going to be Happy Mail, it's the gift, right? You're gifting some Fussy cuts to a friend. And, maybe that friend will think that bouquet is so pretty that they will never take the bouquet apart. But if it's somebody who really likes using Fussy cuts, they will empty that vase and maybe they'll use this folder for something else. So now I'm just putting a bead of glue on each side of the vase, which is what I should have done at the beginning. So I have a place to tuck a flower. And I'm taking a script stamp and I'm using that green ink and some brown ink, and I'm just slightly putting some script on the vase and on that other little embellished part. Just again, a little bit of interest, a little bit of layering, a little bit of dimension. And now it's kind of ready to go, and it doesn't look like much, right? It looks kind of boring. But as I build my bouquet and I use those little pockets that have been stepped by folding, I start creating a bouquet just like I would with real flowers. And it's actually really fun. It's really fun. And I could just really picture seasonal bouquets for different mailings that you do. And you could just really have a lot of fun with this. Mother's Day, think about a Mother's Day card with some fussy cuts in it. It's really limitless. So now I'm looking at this and I'm like, yeah, this is really kind of cute. This is a great holder for a letter to a friend. And I'm feeling pretty good about it, but I think it still needs a little something. So I have these like faux stamps that were part of, I think, a Graphic 45 kit. And I had already pre-cut the little stamps out, but they had like this kind of weird edge on them. So first I'm going to pick the stamps that I think will add to the collage, the colors, etc. And I have 4, and I never like anything in 4. It's got to be in 3s, right? We always have to have the odd number of 3. So I pick the 3 stamps that I think will go really well. And then I'm going to get some scissors that have that special edge, and I'm going to cut them so they have sort of a stamp edge. I feel like there's a little something else that's needed. So I have these little pieces of vellum that have florals on them. So I'm just going to fussy cut one of those out and stick it underneath the stamp on that little edge of the ledger, simply because I think it needs just a little something extra. Okay, so now it's time to just glue it all down, the stamps and the little piece of vellum, and that looks pretty good. I have to say, I didn't really know where this project was going to lead. I knew what the goal was, making a bouquet with fussy cuts, but this was really not this was not what I had in my mind, but I'm happy with how it's going. So last thing I decide to do is put in a eyelet, just to sort of, I want a little bit of textile on this little project. So I'm going to pick out some eyelets that I can try to find a color that goes well with the project. And now I'm just going to do a little flipping it over, and I'm going to set the eyelet in place. Just a couple little snaps from my setting tool, and now I'll just kind of fiddle with these flowers, get them all pretty and in place. And I'm just going to add a little bit of textile. It's actually some really cool yarn I found, and it's kind of like ribbon yarn. I can't even explain it. It's so soft, and it's got a lot of the colors that are in the bouquet. And I'm just going to trim them different lengths so that it's a little bit more interesting. And pretty much this is our little bouquet project made from fussy cuts. So I just imagine tucking it in an envelope and putting, a variety of fussy cut flowers that a pen pal or a friend can use in their projects, and writing a letter and tucking the letter inside. And I'm pretty happy with it. I also thought for mailing purposes, it might be smart to put like a hidden paper clip to sort of keep them all in place in the envelope. But that's just a little something I was fiddling around with. But that's my little fussy cut project. And just like I was inspired by Barbie, I hope this project inspires you. One of the things I love about our community is that our ideas grow as we inspire each other. And as I'm putting this in my sample book to remember it, I notice how cute it looks in there and what a great little page it would look in a junk journal. I'll definitely be trying this project again. And with that, I close out another episode of Tea with Me. I hope that April has been good to you. I look forward to May and, in my part of the world, spring coming. I have some great ideas of videos I want to put out in May. I hope you'll check out some recent videos from this month, including my newest clay class on making easy charms and embellishments for junk journals, paper craft, or just jewelry making that paper crafters already have a lot of the materials, and they're really fun to make. I will link that video below. All the show notes for this episode, including products I used, people I talked about, shops, etc., are all in the box below. Thank you for joining me, and I will see you in May. Bye.